Hey soldiers, real estate related expenses are going up 900% in some cases in the state of Florida, and this issue threatens to come out of Florida and infect other states, maybe the county you live in. So we're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about a solution to this problem that you may be able to implement. We'll go over that in a second. But listen, Florida is getting hit hard. The residents there are looking at a situation, and people who want to become residents of Florida are looking at a situation where it's quite probable that they will not be able to afford a primary residence or an investment property in the state of Florida. And again, this has the potential that nothing about this is necessarily unique to Florida. We are seeing it occur there first for a reason, which we will get to, but this could come out and hit other states as well, because there's an overarching catalyst to this, and it has to do with inflation that is causing this issue. So what are we talking about here? Well, Florida residents are fleeing the state as insurance premiums, homeowners insurance premiums, skyrocket up to 900%. Now look, a little bit about homeowners insurance. If you've got a mortgage on your home, usually you're going to have homeowners insurance because you don't own the home outright just yet. So the bank has an interest, a financial interest in that property via the mortgage. So if something happens to that property, they want to be able to protect their investment and be able to restore that property based on you having some sort of way to do that, okay, insurance. Now, the big issue here is that inflation has caused, and we will see this in more detail in a moment, inflation has caused building materials and labor to skyrocket along with everything else, right? So restoring a property to its original condition, you know, the condition it was at before some sort of natural disaster or God forbid a fire or something like that, is now a more expensive prospect. Okay, that's the main driver behind this, which is not unique to Florida. Okay, that's how it can and probably will. This will metastasize out all across the fruited plain. The skyrocketing cost of insurance premiums in Florida is leading residents to drop their insurance, which is a very bad idea, consider selling their home, and even move out of the state, according to recent reports. Now, let's take this in bite-sized chunks. Drop your insurance. Usually, you don't have that option. Again, if you got a mortgage, you've got to have insurance. But even if that home is paid off, dropping your insurance is very risky unless, and we'll get to that solution in a minute, but not everybody's going to be able to implement that in whole or in part, but we're going to talk about it anyway. For years, the sunny, vibrant state has been a magnetic destination for many Americans, a phenomenon which has been driving up demand for housing. Naturally, more people moving in, you need more housing, especially during the 2020 era where we saw all that occur. A lot of people moved down there, and when you have a lot of demand and not enough supply to meet the demand, boom, higher prices. But while Florida was the #1 state in the country that people moved to in 2022, it was also the one with the highest number of residents wanting to relocate. And this is according to self-storage. They did a survey about this. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, an estimated 275,666 people left Florida in 2022, nearly 23,000 people every month. Most, according to the Bureau, Census Bureau, relocated to places like Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Texas. So now what do those states have in common? They're pretty red states politically. They have a lot of the same accoutrements that Florida has in terms of like this crazy notion that you should be able to protect your #1 asset by being able to defend yourself. All those states that we mentioned here are pretty pretty high on that, believe it or not. And all of those states are technically in the South and have, you know, warm weather, less of a winter than the northeastern states. So, people are trading up Florida, but for similar states. It's not like they're saying, I'm going to move out of Florida and I'm going to move to New York or California. We're not seeing that happen. There are many reasons why people are leaving the Sunshine State, including the rising cost of living, the skyrocketing home prices, high property taxes, and the exacerbated risk of deadly and devastating extreme weather events like hurricanes. I know people personally who live in Florida for 6 months and a day. They're Florida residents, 6 months and a day at least. And therefore, they earned all their money in a northeastern state, for example, where you got high taxations or even taxation, or even in California. They can move to Florida, become a resident of that state, and have their retirement treated a lot more favorably from a tax standpoint. Now, with these insurance costs going up, you got to do the math and figure out, does that still make sense? Okay, maybe for some it does, maybe for some it doesn't. The state's insurance premiums, Homeowners Insurance, which are the highest in the country, according to a recent study by the Insurance Information Institute, are also one of the reasons Floridians are considering leaving the state, as many can no longer afford insurance on their home. Several homeowners told the Wall Street Journal that the increased cost of premiums have led them to completely or partially drop their insurance. This is known as going bare, and even these people are even considering selling those properties. Home insurance premiums have tripled in the state in the past 5 years, with residents currently paying on average more than $4,200 per year. The national average is $1,700 per year. Okay, so this is a tremendous increase over what the national average is, and people are like, whoa, I got to come out of my pocket with plus $3,000 more every year. Remember, a lot of people who live in Florida are retirees on fixed incomes. Some insurance premiums have risen by about 9 times what they were in 2022, according to Oscar Sekeli, chief executive of the NSI Insurance Group. He told the Wall Street Journal that with multi-million-dollar homes generating premiums costing as much as $600,000 a year, okay, that's just mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing. So you got a $2 million house, okay? Well, let's shoot for the fences. You got a $5 million house. That's easy to do in Florida. You're paying $600,000 a year in insurance premiums. That's insane. Now, even if I were rich, which I am not, but even if I were, there is no way I could see kicking $600,000 per year out into nothingness. Okay? Yeah, if something happens, they're going to rebuild my home. Great. But think about all of the assets I could buy and become even richer with $600,000 per year. This happened because construction costs are rising, which are taken into consideration when determining how expensive it would be to rebuild a home once it's destroyed. These have risen 40%. These costs have risen 40% since 2017. And because of excess litigation going on in Florida. Look, these insurance companies are for-profit businesses, right? Analysts have expressed their fears of what could happen should a major natural disaster like a hurricane strike the state, as many Floridians do not have insurance coverage. All right, so let's talk about what the solution here is, because this going bare thing is very dangerous, okay? I do not recommend you not having insurance on a property, even if it is paid off or there's no mortgage on the property. You're going to expose yourself to some really huge losses. So if the house is paid off, and this is why I say this solution is not for everybody, but if the house is paid off, then what you may want to do is self-insure in whole or in part. Now, what do I mean by that? All right, let's tackle partial self-insurance. Let's say your home is worth $100,000. $100,000. Just to make the math easy. All right. In today's world, how much would it cost to replace your home? $200,000. Okay. All right. Fine. We want to have $100,000 on hand so that we can chip in and use that money to replace the cost of the home. We could put the money somewhere where it is safe but earning a return. And when I say, don't get confused now, let me clarify. You bought the home for $100,000. Now it's worth $200,000. It will cost $200,000 to replace. Okay, so you got $100,000 squirreled away. That's working for you, okay, but it's not in something that's risky. But it is there for the express purpose of if something happens to damage your home and you need to rebuild. So now you can go out and get an insurance policy on $100,000. And that will lower the expense of the insurance. Now, you could also say, hey, I'm just going to put $200,000 away and I'll self-insure because I'll self-insure. I no longer have a mortgage. You could do that as well. Again, if it is somewhere where it's got to be doing at least inflation. Okay, it's got to be growing at least the real inflation rate, not this 2-3% garbage they talk about. You're looking at about 8%. Okay, we're talking about S&P 500 territory. And look, this is not financial advice. I'm just giving you some things to think about. But the reason you want to make sure it keeps pace with inflation is because the cost to build, the labor, the materials, that certainly is. Okay, so that's one thing you might want to think about. But if you can't see yourself doing that, and you find that your insurance policy is way too expensive, then you might want to look at what these people in Florida are doing and saying, hey, I gotta check out another state. It's just not making financial sense. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.